everyone. Welcome to Founder Voices, the platform where we sit down with bold, visionary, and purpose-driven leaders who are building ventures that matter. I'm your host, Clement Akron, founder of College Factory, where we support startups, social enterprises, and innovators with the tools, networks, and strategies to thrive. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Daniel Harris, founder of Kendra.io. Daniel is a pioneer in open source tools, creative industries, and digital empowerment. His career spans nearly 3 decades, from co-founding Cerberus, which pioneered online music distribution, to building Cybernet, one of the UK's leading independent broadband ISP provider. With Kendra.io, Daniel has been developing open, interoperable tools that empower artists and organizations to take control of their data. And this is really key because this is at the heart of what Daniel is doing. Beyond Tech is also behind initiatives like Freewheelers, No Plastic App, bringing together technology, sustainability, and community impact. Daniel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Really pleased to be here.
Excellent. How are you today, my friend?
Today I am facing the prospect of next week speaking at two conferences, one in London and then Helsinki, and all of the travel logistics and the I don't know where I'm staying yet. I need to figure that out. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Excellent. What are these conferences about?
So the first one is API Days. The strap line of API Days is no AI without APIs, and basically AIs need to get access to services, and they can do that via APIs. And there's been a lot of work in as well as the chat services we've seen just massively explode on the scene. There's been a lot of work by service providers to make their services more accessible by AI, and in order to feed the chat services that we're all using. So there are a number of protocols being developed. So we're looking at those to see if we can actually use them in what we're doing. So that's London, and then Helsinki is the My Data conference, and that's all to do with how do we as humans get to own and control and manage our own data and yeah, be autonomous effectively. And that's actually dearer to our heart. I don't want to compare them; they're both going to be great, but yeah, quite dear to our heart that we can do that. That's one of the reasons we're here, really.
Excellent. Daniel, you've always been at the cutting edge of technology. And when I've had the privilege to been around you a few times and all, and whenever
Mm.
I'm around you, it just strikes me that this guy is such a gifted and talented guy with so much going on. Um, what gets you excited in the morning? What wakes you? What gets you out of bed?
Um, I think I'm not sure if this is true so much anymore, but still think I'm really angry. I'm just really angry at the state of the world. I'm just angry at how we got here. And I think over the years, I've changed the way I resolve that anger. And I I think I just get up and I'd go, I've got to make the difference. And um, I wrote a song when I was maybe like, I don't know, 12. Like, it was like, pick up your banner, be aware, voice your opinion, boy, don't be scared. Yeah. It's been in me for a long time. Uh, these ideas of making the world a better place,
Mm,
and um, I think I was privileged to have a childhood that was not messed with. Not, middle class maybe, but actually looking back on it, not with not not lavish. We were living in a house in Devon at one point with one of the walls falling down. It was all and no electricity. I think we had water. So and I appreciate that experience of living close to the land
mm,
when I was growing up, and I kind of I I wish that experience of, I mean, I guess there was a lot of love in my life, and there was a lot of, it felt safe, and I felt good in my own company as well. And I think, just, I think all the things that are not letting that happen
mm,
to, to kids growing up, and then the resulting adults
yeah.
that are inflicted with either the abuse or war torn or just dealing with poverty or or entanglement in social media. Feel very privileged that there were no mobile phones when I was growing up, and so I know the difference and I know the discernment. Um, there you go.
Yeah. So then, what's your ideal world then, Daniel?
Mm. That is the best question. And I wish
Mm,
more people were asking that question
mm,
of each other and of themselves. And maybe that is partly what the ideal world looks like, is when we're all asking that question to each other and ourselves. And saying, what do I really want? And sometimes I get lost, especially in the world that I'm inhabiting, where I'm doing lots of things. But I really know that I need to balance all of that stuff up and make sure I'm nurturing myself. Um, I my my ideal world is when we're all loving ourselves. Yeah, literally, just that we're all really taking care of ourselves and really nurturing ourselves and yeah. Take it and obviously taking care of each other, but not at the detriment of ourselves, just like that our primary connection, just that really, really figuring out who we are and what experiences we want. I mean, we could get metaphysical, and I don't really go into it this much, but I know that our bodies are miracles, just like our world, our planet is a miracle, and I think how great that we could all experience it
mm.
with joy, and yeah, there you go. That would be the ideal world. Party, basically partying all the time. Basically, I do go to a lot of festivals, drink free, drug free, dance festivals, community festivals, and enjoying people's company, enjoying dancing. That's pretty utopian for me. But I would love that for the world, just like, let's just concentrate on enjoying life because it's a miracle.
Mm. Well, it goes back to Madonna's hit song "Holiday." If we took a holiday just one night to celebrate, it will be so so nice. What about people that argue and say, well, this is utopian. It's never happened. Look at
Yeah.
nature. It's always been survival of the fittest.
Oh, there's so much in there.
Exactly. Aren't you
Let's
people asking for too much? It's not.
Okay, let's dissect those things one by one. I
Yeah.
once took a workshop that started out being called um, something about world peace or living in a world at peace, and then it ended up being called living our dreams. and I still do them sometimes on occasion at festivals. And basically, it ends up dealing with all of those ideas that we continually put out internally and externally to limit ourselves. And to limit the experience that we're having and to limit the experience of others that others are having. And it's really interesting, like these things that we keep, it's got to get worse before it gets better, and all these kind of things that we just churn out without really thinking about them, and they become the way that we live our lives. And so yeah, like the utopian one. Well, um, what's that phrase? Shoot for the stars and you might hit the moon or something like that. I think, and what was the other one you said? Why would anyone want to do this? What was it that you
They'll say it's unrealistic. It's never happened before.
unrealistic?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
always been very
Yeah,
vulnerable.
nature.
It's
That's it. Yeah,
nature.
look
Yeah,
at the animals. Look at
yeah,
the animals. They kill each other,
yeah.
and yeah, it's why limit ourselves?
Mm,
Why limit ourselves by limiting ideas? And why let someone else control each of us with other ideas? Why can't we make this up? We humans are privileged to be able to change their minds, and that's, my stock reply, if I was in the workshop, my stock reply would be, who said that? And the person might refer to someone else, and then in that which case I'd say, well, you have your own voice. So they might say, well, actually, my aim would be to get them to say, I said it. I said it. Well, you have the option of saying something else. That everything that we say can be altered. We have the power to change our minds and to look at what's important. And yeah, I think there's always people who don't think the way we think, and uh, I've got two responses to them. One is, cool, dude. You just carry on your way. Just that's fine. I'm just gonna go this way. You go that way. Fine. And the other one is, yeah. I mean, we can really sit down and talk about what's important and what do they really want. And I think that it's definitely not a case of trying to shove anything down someone's throat. Ultimately, the utopia that I want is that everyone is a free thinking person having thoughts for themselves, thinking about how they think, actually really, yeah, being aware of how their brain works, of the thought processes that they're having. And by the way, I'm I'm no expert at this. I'm continually learning, but I'm interested in, where did that thought come from? Why am I thinking like this? I didn't have a good night's sleep and I'm really pissed off with generally, and so I'm ratty. That's just like, so can I compensate for that? At the beginning of our team meetings, we've got about 8 people in our team, 8, 9 people in our team meetings. We always pause for about a minute, and then we just share where we're at, what's going on for us, what are we feeling, and it's a beautiful moment of just like being our real messy selves before we get on with the day. and and what's also good about that is, especially for me, I'm continually responding to little things, going, why did they do this? And they're generally really, really, really small things, really insignificant things. Why didn't someone ask me? And but it's okay. I think it's okay to keep that at the surface, like to keep awareness of, yeah, I'm having a real hard time with this thing, and I know that it's really trivial.
Yeah.
but I need to express it anyway. And I think a lot of the problems that we have in our lives, be they professional or personal relationships, is when we don't actually voice what's going on and don't explain what's going on, or we think we should be behaving in a particular way, and we just end up fighting inside. So parts of us are saying, no, no, behave like this, but another part of us is rebelling against that part. And we, yeah, that's partly why I think we're having such problems in the world at the moment, is because basically everyone, it's a manifestation of everyone's internal argument
Mm.
that they're having. You know, we don't have wars for no reason. We don't have arguments for no reason. We don't have violence for no reason. It's people are upset with themselves
Mm.
and they're taking it out on anything external, hoping that they can get rid of it. Um, I think that's true. I
Mm.
don't know if it's true. It's a good model for me.
Mm. Interesting. What's
Hmm.
something that's been exciting to you recently, either in work or outside work?
I'll give you both. I write music, and what's exciting is I haven't stopped writing songs, and I'm really glad about that. Um, it Yeah, they keep on coming, and it does require a moment for that to sort of but be able to bubble up. So I need to be sort of in a quiet place, or yeah, and I'm enjoying playing my old songs as well. And it's exciting. I'm excited by the prospect of actually playing with real professional musicians and recording my stuff for real in a really good environment. That's one thing. And then work, uh, which is more like play, to be honest. Um, it can be a slog, but I am super excited by the prospect of what we're building. Yeah, yeah,
Excellent.
yeah.
So why is openness, interoperability, and data portability such a
Yeah.
crucial challenge today?
Huh. Wow. Um, those things, openness, open protocols, interoperability, data portability, they were fundamental building blocks that I observed in the mid 90s when I was running an ISP back in the day. We were selling dial-ups, by the way, like modem connections. It's nuts thinking about it now. But those were fundamental building blocks of the internet and the web, and how we could experience more fluid and interconnected digital experiences with all of our data, and how we interconnected with service providers. Um, we we've been looking at this for ages, and I've been talking about it for ages. About, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it would be utopia if all of this stuff worked together? If everything worked together, it was all fluid, we didn't have to manually copy stuff from here to there, and that we had one interface for shopping, or one interface for notifications, or it just, I have to keep, or social media or chat or all these things. It's just, it's very our world is very service centric. It's very seller centric. You know, it's it's vendor centric. But I want a world where it's more human centric. It's user centric. And so we're looking at how can we build technology like that. And those attributes that we were talking about, they lead to the ability for a human to be in the center. They to be autonomous, to be in control of their lives, to make decisions about their lives. Yeah, to be free. Mm.
Absolutely. One could argue that that's perhaps what the Chinese are doing with WeChat. Are they correct?
Yes, the super app. Um, Uh, are they correct? I I don't know if there is a correct or incorrect thing here. I think one would, in terms of what I'm interested in, one would measure um, the any super app by in the terms that I'm interested in. Does it actually make you freer? Does it save you time? Does it give you the ability to build your own world, your own systems?
Mm,
Um, and I don't think it does because it's not malleable. As in, a developer is making a decision based on what they've been told from their boss to build something to give to the user. The user receives that and they cannot change it. So, um, I often use the analogy of an Excel spreadsheet because when I get an Excel spreadsheet, I can add a few numbers. I can put a sum at the bottom. I can then do lots of different things, make graphs, add more people to it, and I could model my business on it, my small business on it. I can do accounts. I can do loads of different things, and I can keep changing. I can send it to you, and you can start changing it too. We don't need a developer, and we don't need an app store. You know, and what I'm wondering is there a middle path, or is there a way we can bring something like WeChat or a super app, that idea that it's all available to me, and it's all malleable. I can change everything. I can change the interface, I can change the logic, and I can change the data, and I can own the data. So now we're really getting into where we're really interested. That we're interested in building that, and then just giving it away. And I should say, yeah, we're non-profit, non-revenue seeking, open source, and we're building free forever software. And Yeah. So WeChats and super apps are a really great idea. So we want to build a super app that is totally changeable. You can build your own worlds within it. You can interact with APIs. You can interact with other services. You can skin the world in the way that you want it. You can simplify interfaces so that, I mean, personally speaking, I want a simple world. I don't want to have to go, well, there's a number of things. Number of things about social media is I do not want them to own the algorithm. I want to own the algorithm. I want to be in control of who I see, when I see them, how I see them. I don't want any adverts and I don't want any news. That's my take on it. Your take might be different. And other people's takes might be totally, oh, I want to get loads of different things, but I want me to be in control of my view, and I want you to be in control of your view. Yeah. Um, yeah.
interesting. Because I remember when I started, um, with computers in the 90s, that was what it was. It was BASIC, it was COBOL, it was Fortran, it was a GW Basic, and we created stuff. We had that freedom to play around and come up with stuff, and we developed apps and different stuff. So these things were building foundation that we built on. So how has the trajectory shifted from that?
It's like that. I've been thinking that's exactly my thoughts. I was working on not working. I was a kid on a ZX81 and then a Spectrum and then an Amiga. What? I was building things and I could put it on a floppy and I could give it to my friends, or even a tape cassette. I could give it to my friends, or they could give me a program they were working on. We could play around. So what happened to that? Yeah. And it things are hosted now, and you don't even, you're not running it locally necessarily. It's all somewhere else. So yes, I think there's a schism has happened, and I can only put it down to that as things got more complicated, both in the actual operating systems, the development of applications for those operating systems, and then for web stuff and services and um, yeah, just that little decisions were made here and there, and trends happened to concentrate power in order to make money. I can only imagine it's like that because when I think about it, why has no one created a fully malleable super app building environment where you can change the logic of any component, you can change the interface? Why has no one done this? And, why has Excel remained the same and static? And what happened? There are no code building tools which are now using AI, but before the AI came along, there were like WYSIWYG stuff,
Yeah.
but they were all hosted online. So that's a model we're using, but instead of it being online, we're saying, right, okay, we're going to do that locally. So like Excel runs locally and the spreadsheet that you create is local and you save it local to your SSD and it stays there and no one else can see what you've just done. And we want the same with applications as well, that
Mm.
you are totally empowered to keep it totally private. Um, and but then you can also share it with your friends as well. And so I don't, yeah, the reasons why that it went like that, don't know, but want to redress the balance
Mm.
and get back the power to us. Yeah.
And
Mm.
is there an appetite for that? Do people, because the one thing I realize, I mean, you and I remember this time. Many people don't, and they think, oh, it's always been like this. And it
Yeah.
takes a lot of education to make them understand, no, 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 it was never like this. It used to be
Mm.
like that. But also it's a world that they never knew anyway. So we're trying to tell them about this world that they never knew, they never experienced. So
Okay.
it's even a harder sell. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree with that totally. And just everything you just said, agree with it totally. That, yeah, yeah, people have forgotten. Well, they never knew. They never knew how it was before when you had that power. And it's really nuanced because like obviously the tech that we had back then was super slow compared to now. And it was, very limited in what it could do, like in terms of high resolution screens and things
Mhm.
like that. But now it's amazing. And obviously there are areas where I can run a 3D program. I can do something amazing. But I think it's the nuance that we're talking about is not having access to open source software generally, but it's being able to do the really simple things. And it feels like we've got really simple stuff like chat or email and Excel spreadsheets. Okay, coming back to that again. And then we've got this really amazing stuff. And there seems to be a huge gap in between that is kind of like not serviced. You either do it yourself and do something a bit um, uh, basic, or you have to go and
Functional?
hire
Yeah.
so
Mm.
yeah, go commercial. You have to hire a developer or
Mm.
develop or whole developers,
Mm.
or you need to use a service
Mm.
and get like um, what's it called, Salesforce or something like that, some sort of place where they've got all these widgets for you, and there's very little difference, very little in between. But I want to come to the point about what you said, like, is it a hard sell? Well, I think the thing to do is not to try and sell it head on like that. And
Mm.
I'm talking about sales in the kind of mindset stuff, because obviously we're not asking people to part with any money.
Yeah.
Um, because what we're doing is we're in in a number of cases, we're finding collaborators
Mm.
that have specific problems, and then we're building our Kendra IO app for those problems for to provide solutions, and we're in each case, we're making sure that the components that we build those solutions with are generic, so that they can then be components and building blocks for other solutions. And when you think about it, and this is the interesting thing, a lot of services, not 3D games, okay, not 3D games, but like a lot of services can be described by a set of functionality that is basically like create an object,
Mm.
list objects, delete objects, find objects, search objects, filter objects. And you know, you've got like maybe, or graph objects or list objects, and it's maybe like you've got 10 or 20 things like that you're going to be doing with a data set or data sets. And once we've discovered that, then it's kind of like, well, shopping is basically like list things, select things, go to the cart, you know, or search things, you know, and that's 4 or 5 things you've done,
It's
and
finite.
that's it,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And so if we can build good interfaces and configuration for each of these blocks, then we can provide people with a toolkit that can actually they can start to create their own ideas. And we're seeing lots of parallels. So for example, we're building a book buyers club where a bunch of shops are bookshops are doing bulk orders, and then obviously maximizing minimizing the cost because you're doing it in bulk, and each one of the shops has a shopping list and it's aggregated. And so that's one metaphor. And then we've got another one, which is food co-ops. It's exactly the same thing. So it's as, you know, buyers clubs are exactly the same thing, but they're seen as totally different. And the same with shopping, like I said, and marketplaces in general, where you're connecting two different. I run freewheelers, like you said. It's a ride sharing website, and it's a bit long in the tooth now, but there's a lot of ride sharing websites out there, and so as a user, I just want to have a ride sharing app that plugs into all of those services. This is the logical thing that makes sense. It's not utopia.
Excellent. So, Daniel, then, why is openness, interoperability, and data portability such a crucial challenge today? I mean, I remember when I started, back in the 90s, it was GW Basic,
Yeah,
COBOL, Fortran, and we
yeah,
played around things. We were excited about the possibilities. There were limitations, but all that was part of the fun because we're always trying to overcome those limitations and becoming really, really innovative in the stuff we're doing.
yeah.
Why have we lost all that?
Well, I think a lot of that is still here, but it's just concentrating. On a different path, in a sense that I think people go into computing now for vocation. You know, they do it to learn something, to work. Whereas back in the day, I think there was a lot more experimentation and learning about these. I think actually I might be talking bollocks. No, I think that's wrong. I think there's still a load of innovation happening, and I think there's loads of people on the edge just experimenting with things. But I think it's not really at that accessible. It's not so accessible anymore. It takes a certain type of brain to be dealing with those that technology. Actually, Clement, I really want to pick up. Hopefully the recording has worked from the last thing. I want to pick up where it was before, because I think one thing that you mentioned was about how do we sell this to individuals. This idea of a kind of a super app, or a system where they can manipulate what it looks like, and manipulate the interface, the logic and the data, and store all the data locally. And I don't think it's a direct sell. It's a lot to do with providing value and to showing that by doing it in certain ways, they can they can really fly. And as I was talking about buyers clubs and how the metaphor is kind of transferable between different sectors, and what we would think as different ways of doing things. Yeah, I think that what we want to do is not do a massive launch, but just roll this out gently, just increase the number of collaborators that we have, building technology. I think, yeah, this is an interesting point. I think there's a real gap. There's the low end where you can build something yourself in Excel spreadsheets or something. If you know, I think most people can do that, but jumping to the next level just requires, you know, you need to be a techie of some sort. You don't need to be a developer necessarily, but you need to have a real techie brain that can manage to configure all of these different air tables and, you know, things that buddy base and all things like that. And or Superbase, or, you know, these different database online systems, and configure the no code systems as well. But there's a whole swathe of technology, or a swathe of need, that is not being serviced. And one of the reasons it's not being serviced is because there's no money in it. And that's a really interesting area for us to look at. There's no money in it, but there's a real need for systems where you can admin what's going on collaboratively, you know, sharing technologies. And what we found is yeah, well, one particular case is really obvious. We're working with some cacao farmers in the Ivory Coast, and they have some technology for tracking where the cacao goes, shipments from A to B, from the farm to the distribution points and the port and so forth. But there's new EU regulation about to basically make sure that deforestation is not happening. And the requirement for that is basically fill out forms, prove where you're, and it's not just cacao, it's rubber and corn and some cattle as well, I believe. So it's quite a number of different, it's not all crops, but quite a number of them. And it's not just Africa as well. So it is quite a huge problem. And there are some systems out there that are attempting to deal with it, but they're paid for. And the people we're talking to, the margins are so tight and being screwed so much down that to be able to provide them with something that is just a little bit of a time saver and a mechanism for doing this, where they can use their smartphones or yeah, that can log stuff, and that's where we think we can make wins. And it isn't high polluting technology. It's not AI. It's not necessarily blockchain. It's just something that allows you to log some things and collaborate, because Excel spreadsheets, you can't collaborate too easily, you know, and if you want to do interfaces, you can't really do that. So you need to move on. And where we hope to take what we're doing is in building basically a framework that people can just I'll take a bit of that, I'll take a bit of this, I'll build my own super app. And so this, I think for me anyway, this works for small businesses, potentially larger businesses that need to build integrations with existing services or standalone things. And it works for me personally about how I view the world, and to really simplify it, and to really it's not only simplify the view but also simplify the functionality of it, and the onslaught of information, and really pare it down. I think this is a bit of the dream of AI as well. And I'm not an AI evangelist, and I'm a bit of I'm sort of halfway between skeptic as well, because I think there are some dangers, but also there's some potential wins. I mean, I have a largish laptop, and I'm running a local a laptop with enough memory, and I'm running a local LLM on my laptop. So and in a few years, yeah, AI is just going to be on your device, and you won't need any internet, and it will be super private. So I think this is a transition we're going through. So I think there are going to be benefits there, but even then, AI for me is problematic in that it's not reliable effectively. It doesn't say the same thing twice, generally speaking, and that for me is a problem. I want if I'm doing business with people, I want much more specificity, and I want much more accuracy. And I think enabling commerce in a low level way is so important. We can't rely on big business and big aggregators and big distribution points to manage all of this for us. One, it's dangerous on so many levels. It's commercially dangerous because you put so much power in the hands of the few. Two, it's like technologically dangerous. So how many big organizations have been taken out by hackers recently? Marks and Spencer, NHS, the post office, the list just goes on. And that's the whole point of the internet, was to have no single point of failure. Do you remember that, guys? And so having small systems working independently but being able to interoperate, send messages to each other, that's the whole point. That's why we have the node system of the internet. And that's one thing we've forgotten as well. And so to be able to replicate that in software. So I don't think it's just going back to the old days. I don't think it's that. I think we've learned from networking, from interoperability. There's so much to say. I think there's so much to say. One thing that just occurs to me is that we don't all have to speak the same language. We can have translators. That this is the beauty of the world we find ourselves in. I've been evangelizing open protocols for years, saying we need standards in all of these different. But now I realize we don't. We don't need standards. We just need little translators here and there. Just say, when you say this, I hear it like this, and when I say this, you hear it like that. On a technological point of view. So if you're sending me an object that relates to a crop that you've been growing, and I want to distribute it, then we don't have to have a huge, it needs to be in standard 3.75. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be well, there's loads of different ways that people speak things and say things, and that we can, as long as they're consistent at their end, we can build in translators. So this means that systems can interoperate, and we don't need to get them to speak all the same languages. And that's awesome, because we have at the moment millions of different systems all speaking different languages. So if we put little bits of glue. And that's another thing that we found doing what we're doing, when we don't have the profit motive, we don't have the revenue motive, we don't have the motive to create discrete bits of technology that are bounded in my name. Here it is. This is mine. I'm giving it to you. You pay me some money or pay me some rent for using my software or my service. And this really opens up massively what is available to us in terms of technological solutions. That actually we, as a globe, as a Earth, planet Earth, we're tied into this idea that everything has to be a discrete program, an app. But actually, the world doesn't need to be like that. It could be far more nuanced and fine-grained in terms of how we build technology, like little bits of interconnection here between here and there. You know, I, I haven't fully taken on the kind of ramifications of all of this, but I just on the periphery, I'm just like looking in on this world where the rules have changed, and it feels like, wow, we don't know anything in terms of what's possible. And yeah, I think that I don't necessarily think that AI and blockchain don't have their own kind of amazing worlds as well. But I think once you actually start to empower the end user to be able to build their own discrete worlds, their own discrete services in a group of friends, has nothing to do with anyone else. I think that's empowerment, and that's amazing when we don't need a developer and we don't need an app store. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So what about quantum computing then?
Well, I'm going to say I know nothing about it. Do you know anything about quantum computing?
Well, I've been to a few conferences, and
tell me.
They promise a lot of amazing things. So one of the arguments behind quantum computing is the fact that the existing framework and protocols that we work at the moment are limited. So we quantum computing will be able to do a lot more complex mathematical projects. So that's the strength. But also it's also a race in the power play.
Okay.
Between countries. So who's going to get there first? Who gets there first has the edge over the others and stuff. Just almost similar to what we're seeing with AI and stuff.
Okay, I'll give you my take. I have a device. Okay, it's my hand, but I'd imagine it's my device, and I want to move some data out of the weather app into my calendar app, and then I want to put it into my contacts app, and then into my chat app, and then I want to move that into some other app, and then I want to create an app between my friends. You know what? I can't even do that. You know, so quantum computing, AI, blockchain, actually, I'm sorry, but until I can do that, until you're freeing me to be in control of my own world, I don't care. I just don't. I'm just not. It's not actually. Maybe it's that I don't. I do care. I'm a geek. But in terms of my priorities are to be free. My priorities are to free to enable others to be free if they so want to. Yeah. And by the way, I don't think they do necessarily know that they want to yet. But that's
just about to say that.
This is a really interesting point. This is a really interesting point. And it does, you know, it's one of these naysayers that would say this, as you've been modeling quite brilliantly in a few things that you said. But maybe people don't want to change. Maybe people don't want a better life. Maybe people don't want to be free. It's okay. I want that. Because we're at a particular position at the moment where if we don't have that, I think we're screwed as a world, as a planet, as a society. If we don't have people who are free and who understand what freedom means, then we're in deep shtuck, because no one will take responsibility for what's going on. They'll always abdicate responsibility. They will always give it to someone else to overlord them, and they'll never think that they have anything but victim mentality. And we don't need victim mentality. What we want is a world where people are really empowered. And so, yeah, it's education, and it is in the sense of teaching people not directly, but by experience. I want to give people the experience of empowerment. When people feel like they can create, I think like that's the whole thing. Like when people can draw a picture, this is my creation. I'm able to create something or make plasticine or whatever. I'm able to do this. I can create. I think even that, I think that's why drawing and painting and sculpture and and I'm not talking high fluting sculpture. I'm talking about making plasticine or play is so important to us as humans. Is we can fashion things and we are in control of those things. And I think when we go out into the world, after we just lose touch with the fact that we are creators. And I think we need that in order to, well, we've got two choices. And I was going to say, we need that in order to actually solve the problems that we have, because ultimately we need people to take responsibility of the decisions that they make. And if people don't take responsibility for the decisions that they make, then they're always going to be wrong decisions. They're always not going to be to the benefit of all of us or themselves even. And what was I going to say? I forgot. Yeah, but it's not about necessarily. For me, it's about how do we get that over in the nicest possible way, the most attractive way. Look, here's a lovely sweetie, but you need to be free. I know you don't want to be. You're kind of cozy in your little world of like, oh, everyone is nasty out there. I'm going to blame everyone else, and it's not going to be me. But actually, we all need to take responsibility for the way the world is at the moment. And I don't think blaming people is not going to work, and it shouldn't. We shouldn't blame any specific people. It is all our problem. We are all to blame. Actually, incidentally, it's a classic. I was in Johannesburg. Was it 98? It was for a telecoms company, telecoms conference, and we had partnered with a satellite company. This was when I was running the internet service provider, and we went around a roundabout. We were traveling in a car and we went around a roundabout, and there were lots of posters everywhere. And I think it was basically, I can't remember the name of what was the process, but it was after apartheid had fallen, and the posters read, "We are all partly to blame." And it was just, wow, so beautiful. And I think it stands then, I think it stands now. And I think until we get that, we can't make the shift. And there's two ways. Either we go in that direction, maybe there's three ways, or maybe there's several ways, but like either we go in that direction and we basically take on responsibility for what's going on and we all make that shift, or we go another direction, which is we just basically kowtow to some oligarch dictator and they say what we all need to do. I think those are probably out scenarios where we actually could save society, save the planet, like we deal with climate change and all that kind of stuff. But I know which one I would like. I don't want to be under a dictator, but I think those are two viable options. I'm sure people are thinking about those in the higher reaches. And then there's the middle way, which is like forever dithering. I don't know. Yeah, no, that's going to cost too much. It's not going to be fun. And we don't get it, and we end up being destroyed. Because yeah.
So what have you learned about building trust and collaboration in this context? Because clearly, I mean, from what you've been alluding to, it's more around reorientation, advocacy, but also education.
Yeah.
Because to a very large extent, it's almost like the Judeo-Christian tradition, where you had these prophets that were idealists going against the grain in many ways in their time, saying, "No, we shouldn't be looking to this direction. We should be looking at that." And some of them were thought to be madmen. Like, "Oh, what was he talking?" It's almost like that. There's this prophetic zeal about what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And you clearly feel it's a calling. I can tell it. I can feel it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You, it's a calling.
Yeah.
So what have you learned about,
Yeah.
trust, collaboration, and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, just to be clear, I wouldn't ever say any of that in public. Um, that would be stupid. You can't say this to anyone else. Yeah. So, um, um, golly, uh, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, the education part, you can't do it direct. It's got to be by example. By example, it's got to be by this thing works better for you than the thing before, and there's also some added benefits to the and if you feel like it, why don't you go and create your own? So it's not like you can't do it head on. It's got to be, yeah, it's got to be the experience. It's got to be the experience of self-empowerment, the experience of self-organization, the experience of freedom, that freedom that comes with that. Um, I think that there are so many things, so many situations in the world where this is happening anyway. But yeah, yeah, the profits, I don't know. Yeah, I hope I'm being really sensible. And the terms that we're using now is like local first. Local first is about having the in the tech sense. So there's other, it's the term is used elsewhere for other things, but in terms of tech sense, it's like offline first. It's having applications that can run offline so that if the internet gets chopped or cuts out for a few hours or the power goes down, you can still run it. You can still operate your device. So that's great. No code, so that you are not needing to be a developer to manipulate the logic of your application. That's brilliant. And malleable interfaces where you can alter the way that your app looks like because you are uh, able to like move things around like a WYSIWYG or drag and drop, those kind of ideas. And the lovely thing about all of this is there are conferences on local first. There are conferences on no code. There are conferences on malleable software. And so you don't have to be a heretic or a blasphemer or you can talk about these things quite safely, actually. I think there is probably yeah, I'm joking, a kind of a minor danger for bringing them all in together and then slapping on the label of super app and freedom and empowerment all in the same thing. Yeah, maybe, but I don't think anyone's listening that hard, to be honest. Ha 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 ha.
Wow. So what advice would you give to founders then, leading mission-driven or ecosystem projects? You got so much to give, Daniel.
Yeah,
Honestly, believe that. And the few times we've met, I keep
mm,
reiterating it. You've got so much to give, and that's one of the reasons why I was so keen to get you on Founder
yeah,
Voice.
yeah,
Yeah. So what would you advise people, change makers, and people that idealists? And it's a lonely road. You know that.
yeah, 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 yeah,
It
yeah,
is.
yeah.
So
One
what?
thing, yeah, one thing I always go back to. Um, I used to live on Dartmoor in Devon, and I'd go into my local town, Totnes, and there used to be a cafe there called Willow. And one time I met this old woman there, um, and uh, she we had a chat, uh, and she told me about she was an activist, and like whatever it was, Greenpeace, Green and Common, just really, she was there on the front line continually. And I think her parting words were "never give up," and it was just, yeah, um, it really touched me,
Mm.
and I think keyed into, yeah, uh, yeah. Sometimes I would like to stop and just chill out and um uh yeah, just make music and lie in the sun and uh but yeah, and I do need to keep bring balance to that, because every time I do wake up, then I'm just like, can't let this carry on, and I've got to think really cleverly. I mean, this is the thing, it's just got to be so clever. You can't, there are so many forces out there, both I'm not going to say good and bad, because it's not good and bad, it's just people with trauma. Yeah, right. It's just traumatized people creating the world as it is, people with trauma just talking about hate. And I think actually we just got to love ourselves and love them. And I mean that, actually. I I hate to say this about love, but it's a it reduces, when we love, we reduce the power that someone has over us. I've often thought about, if I'm meeting someone who is obviously trying to get power over me, I would just say I love you. And there's something good about that. There's something also a little bit divisive and disingenuous about that. So I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if I can do that. We'll see. But there was a moment within that movie. What was it? Everything All at Once. That movie. The crazy movie. And someone is coming towards the heroine, as is doing a karate chop towards them in slow motion, and she just says, "I love you," and that person just disappears or moves aside. Can't attack that person. Um, uh, yeah. So advice. I would so advise forgetting about money. I have a book somewhere that is do what you want and the money will follow. I've actually never read the book. I just looked at the cover. And I was doing that anyway. And somehow I was resourced. I don't think, I've always spent within my means. Like I said, my childhood wasn't lavish. And yeah, I think going for money as a singular goal is yeah, it's why? What do you need that money for? What are you going to spend it on? Concentrate on that. Make that the goal. Because I think, get those words out. What do you want to do? Do you want to create an orphanage? Do you want to save the world? What is the thing that's burning inside you? And I think that yeah, I think connecting in with the passion, be it hate, be it love, be it something, there's some emotion going on. What is that? What is there that wants to come out and manifest? I think that's uh really important. Otherwise you're just like doing a kind of you're doing a slog job, and that's I don't think that's healthy for a human being. And there's so much, yeah, there's so much opportunity to create and connect, and yeah.
Excellent. So if you could influence one major shift in how we build and use technology today, what would it be? Just one.
Yeah, I know you're saying just one, and I'm
Daniel
gonna say
saying just one. Yeah.
I'm gonna say my answer, and then I'm gonna try to find the just one. But the problem that I'm experiencing is this is not a game for just one thing. This is a game for just really connecting on a human level, on a technological level, on a cosmic level, on a who are we, what do we need, who am I, what do I need, and everywhere in between. So and it does touch on so many things, and it is also very much about I see everyone around and I see what's driving them. And I think an understanding, okay, here it is, maybe an understanding of how humans work.
Hmm.
I think that. I think an understanding of how humans work, and not to exploit it, but to help them and yourself and myself
Hmm.
uh become what? More aware of how we work. It's not to necessarily that we need to change or we need to do anything or we need to heal or we need to whatever. It's just like, how am I working today? Because I am working that way today. So the more I understand about how I'm working today, the better. So how am I working? How's other people working? How is the world working? I think that potentially, and it's funny because it's not technology, is it? It's not it's human technology, you know.
It's how we organize society.
It's that, or maybe it's how we don't organize society. You know, it's yeah, it's. But I guess it is. It's ended up being like this, right? And is this optimal?
Hmm.
Could it be more optimal? Yeah. Could it be utopia? And
It's
then,
interesting. Yeah, sorry,
yeah.
go on. Yeah, go on.
And then what is that? What is your definition of utopia? What
Yeah.
is your definition of the stars? And maybe we get to the moon. And I think it's up to everyone to say what their own definition is. And then, yeah, spread that. And it may not be, it may, you know, because I imagine a lot of people's definition is actually detrimental to someone else.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then yeah, maybe we just have to look at that. Maybe we just have to figure out, you
Hmm.
know, how can we all be together, you know, uh, with all the differences. Mm.
Absolutely. No, no,
Hey,
it's interesting because I'll be speaking at the conference in October, first week in October. So there's this grime artist, UK grime artist, Bashi, and he came up with an album after he took a sabbatical for a period of time, and it was a very authoritative, dare I say, album,
mm,
addressing social issues and stuff. You could tell that this is an artist that um, has come of age, and this album is just epic, and he addresses a lot of social issues, and from the back of that there's a conference, and there was a call for papers, and I
wow,
submitted mine, and
wow.
I was successful, and I was called, so I'll be one of the speakers at the event, and
What is it? Where is it? When is it?
so it's I'll dig it out. I'll
Yeah.
send it to you. It's in the first week in October.
Okay.
So it's in not London. It's a well-known venue, not London. And yeah, so I'll be so the title is, you can Google it. It's being poor is expensive.
So say again. Being.
Being poor is expensive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is.
So
It
that
is.
was the title of the album. So I'll
Yeah.
be speaking on from a theological point of view. I don't know if I mentioned to you that I studied theology.
Okay.
Went back to university, took a sabbatical in 2014,
Yeah.
and thought, well, if money wasn't an object, what would I want to do?
Mm,
Theology, philosophy, love the subject, and I did
mm,
a degree in theology, and so I'll be taking it from a theological and philosophical standpoint, and looking at systemic. Going back to this point, and that's the reason why I'm dropping this. Um,
mm.
that it's the world we've created.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like this, but
Absolutely.
it's how we've chosen to organize society, and because we've chosen to organize society in these ways, we have societal problems. And how do we address the societal problems? Some will say reform, some will say pull the whole thing down and rebuild again. There are lots of options on the table,
Yeah.
and I'll be teasing the idea of the Judeo-Christian tradition, of this idea that we created in God's image. As humans, we are created in God's image. So the question I'm going to pose is: if we are created in God's image, how come some people are better than others? How come some people are falling off the cliff?
Mm,
And what should we do in this situation? So it's really, I've only got 20 minutes. So I'm playing around with ideas on how to really engage. And I'm really looking forward to it. But that's cool, because that's a classic example of what you were talking about. So this is an artist that it's not only entertaining the audience, but also getting them to rethink and unlearn,
Yeah.
perhaps have a paradigm shift
Yeah.
how we organize society.
Yeah.
It's so I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it should be a great seminar. So where do you see Kendrayo in the next 3 to 5 years then, as we begin to wrap up?
I would hope
Mm.
Kendra.io is out there. We already have a prototype. We're already working with collaborators. We've got a nuclear disarmament policy negotiator collaborator. We've got collaborators in the music industry working with gigs and song licenses, song rights, registering song rights, and so we've got quite a number of collaborations going on. In a sense, we've already started, and we just want to seed the app out through these channels. And we need to do a lot of work, and we need to do a lot of fundraising, because a lot of the technologies that we're working with are on the cusp of being built, basically. I mean, the local first is, the conference has doubled in its 2 years of being in existence, but it's still very early days. And so I think we're on the cusp of lots of things taking off, but actually what we want to do is bring them together. And yeah, it's going to be hard work. But yeah, so my hope is, we have many collaborators in lots of different sectors: health and climate change, conflict resolution, and anywhere where there's, basically, if you're using Excel spreadsheets and you're kind of stuck because actually you would want it to be more collaborative, then that's probably an area where we really fit. And you should come and have a look at what we're doing within Kendra.io.
Excellent. Excellent. So where can people find you, Daniel?
Yeah. We are at, if you Google Kendra.io, KENDRAIO, it's Kendra, the website address is kendra.io. We have actually a competition, a running competition. I must admit, we got so fed up with going for grants, we decided to be a grant giver. It's about changing the power structure. There's all these people handing out money. Okay. Oh, and we go, please give us the money. It's a bad. It's not healthy. And so we decided, well, we'll do that. We'll give out the money. We'll give out the money to people who have good ideas. So if you can write an essay about how freedom could be used in technology in the future, then we'll give you a prize, because not many people have entered so far. So yeah, and we have a Slack channel where and if you're interested in basically, we've got YouTube videos, and then we've got some articles on Medium. All of those things are linked from the website. If you've got ideas, then we'd love to work with you and see how far we can take this.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us on Founder Voices and sharing your journey.
Cool. It's been a super pleasure, Clement. Thank you.
Excellent. And to our listeners, if you've enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, like, and share. If you'd like to comment on this episode or explore sponsorship opportunities, you can email me directly at cakran@cottagefactory.co.uk. You can also find all other episodes on Cottage Factory, our website /Founder Voices. We've got a blog, a catalog of all the other guests that we've had on the program. Also, we've got a YouTube channel. It's at Founder Voices _ Cottage Factory CF. at Founder Voices College Factory. Stay tuned, for our next episode, where we'll continue to support, to spotlight founders and leaders shaping the future. Thank you very much. See you the next episode. Excellent. I'll stop recording now.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that was brilliant. That was
a
brilliant.
moment.